Okay. Hi guys. Thank you Ashwita for the introduction. And hello guys. I'm really happy to be here. Please feel free to shoot any questions you have along the way. I will be rambling. I will be ranting about my experiences, and I go on long spiels, so I can be quite irritating. So I request you to please just butt in and ask as many questions as you'd like, as and when you feel deem fit. Uh, Okay, I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep it fun, engaging. I am not a very light-hearted guy. I'm a very serious guy, but I am going to try to be funny. Please laugh only if you feel like it. Do not laugh if it's stupid. And yeah, now I think I'll pass it over to Sharif to take it forward. Hi, Sharif. What would you like to ask me?
Hi Kabir, thanks everyone for joining. So the first and foremost question what everyone asks themselves is when they are going into a field, why they want to do this, and has there been some kind of inspiration or some kind of situation which instilled this into you that I should pursue this medium for storytelling or any kind of that thought?
Sharif, it's very simple. In fact, with me, it's been simpler than most other people, and I've been very fortunate that way because I grew up in an environment that fostered a kind of visual literacy. Right, I was fortunate to have been brought up in an environment of storytellers and artists, and from a very young age, I knew that this was the path I wanted to choose for myself. Right, I knew very young at a very young age, I knew I wanted to be a storyteller and a filmmaker, and that's how I essentially got into it. Of course, it wasn't that simple. Yes, of course, I had clarity of thought at a younger age, but I can't say the journey has been simple because, as every artist must go through several ups and downs in life to find his or her own philosophy. I went through the same. I went through numerable kind of relationship troubles, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of my life was like a roller coaster for, from a very young age, because I was bullied in school, and I didn't have too many friends. I had severe depression as a young child. So I kind of, all of those things shaped me as an artist and helped me tell stories that are personal, right? And as Martin Scorsese said, I think the personal stories are the most creative, and that was my objective. It was always to tell stories that were personal and that would touch, move, and inspire an audience.
So as Ashwita told that you first started out to study architecture, then you shifted. Sorry, are you studying history now?
नहीं,
You've
मेरा हो गया.
completed your history.
Yeah, I've completed.
So when you say that you decided to come up over here, obviously as you told that you had some kind of background over here from your family side.
Yeah.
So how did you start over here? So did family
Uh,
support you, or you thought maybe I'll go about this my own way?
भाई, सच बताओ ना, ये बहुत ही बोरिंग सवाल है. मैं मैं सच बता रहा हूँ, ये बहुत ही बोरिंग सवाल है. एंड आई टेल यू व्हाई. क्योंकि आई डोंट बिलीव दैट if a person is doing one thing, that person cannot be exploring other things, right? Sure, I mean, I always knew that the target was to be a good filmmaker, but I was always an explorer beyond that, right? I was always someone who wanted to explore myriad kind of experiences, who wanted to explore myriad professions, and to explore myriad, kind of activities, and things that interested me. So so for me, it was never that, if I am becoming a filmmaker, I cannot do architecture, or I cannot study design, or I cannot study art, or I cannot study humanities, right? Because all of this is, at the end of the day, it's all linked. It's all about understanding human existence, and it's all about pushing the boundaries of our consciousness in a way, to kind of change the world in, spreading the language of love and compassion and empathy, right? And that was always my idea through of telling stories, was to develop on this philosophy of a very humanist kind of social thought. right? It was always that I always wanted to get into the arts because I knew arts was a medium to kind of spread a certain kind of agenda, and an agenda of love and compassion. So it didn't matter, it didn't matter if I was doing films. Then why should I, people always ask me this question कि तू film कर रहा है यार, तू history क्यों पढ़ रहा है वहाँ पे? बट इसका जवाब मैं कैसे दूं यार, मैं इसका जवाब कैसे
So
दूं
my question was not ki why you were doing history.
हाँ,
The
okay.
question was how did you start? Now,
How did I
obviously you
start? Sorry, I kind of misunderstood your question then. Okay, I started when I was about in the 11th standard. I made a documentary film called Project Oneness, right? And that film was about the common thread that connects us all as human beings. Irrespective of which class or strata of society you belong to, there is a common thread that connects us all, and that is the common thread of human emotion and the human experience, right? At the end of the day, no matter if you are an Ambani or you are a mere auto rickshaw wala, feel you still feel certain human emotions of grief, of love, of uh, of of guilt, of I don't know, fear, of regret. These are human emotions that connect us all. And if we have more things that connect us, then why the hell do we discriminate? Socially, why do we discriminate if we have so many things that really unite us all? And that was the controlling idea of this film that I had made,
Project
and this
Oneness.
film, Project Oneness, and that was the first film I made, and that went and picked up several awards. In fact, internationally, it went and won an award in Italy, and it won in Venice, and it went an award won an award in Ukraine, and both best picture at both the festivals. So that kind of propelled and encouraged me to kind of make my subsequent films. Yeah, that's how it started.
Project Oneness, when you were thinking about this, you already told that you had this kind of interest about philosophy of life. If you say you went into this conscious state where you used to think about such kind of things, that why, as you say in Project Oneness, I've seen it. So there are people, they tell about their opinions on death, on life, on
Yeah,
various aspects of their life.
yeah.
So, so your subjects are heavily based upon society and its relation with human beings. So you feel that for every artist there is some kind of theme which they stick to, or do they try to go away from, as you can say, for relations and human society? I'll give a basic example which I have noticed is Nagraj Manjule, who made Sairat. His Sairat and previous film was Sandri. So they dealt with caste system. So in yours, I can see that Hangout and Project Oneness. So this theme exists in all the projects, that human relation and society. So you feel that all.
No, I disagree with you there. My quest has always has always been to be genre agnostic. That is to explore all kinds of genres and forms and treatments in filmmaking, right? So if you see the kinds of films I made the first film I made was a documentary. Then I made a romance. Then I made a drama, a chamber drama like a Karma Cafe. Then I made a pixelation, an animation film called Religion for Dummies. Then I made a film called Ism, which is a concept film. Then I made a film called Dali, which is a live action animation combination film. I made a film called Sudhi, which is again a family drama. I've made a film called Hangout, which is again a romance. So I mean, it's always been to explore a variety of genres as opposed to sticking to one. Right? It is to show my kind of it is to show my it's kind of to show my abilities to tell all kinds of stories, right? And why should it be that किसी ने महारथी ने कहा है ना कि a filmmaker only tells one story his entire life. I don't really believe that. I don't believe that a filmmaker ने वो मतलब एक ही कहानी कहता है, वो अलग अलग फॉर्म में वही कहानी कहता है. नहीं, मैं उस बात को नहीं मानता हूँ. बेसिकली मेरा ये मानना है कि अगर तुम जॉनर एग्नोस्टिक हो और अगर तुम अपने वर्सेटैलिटी को तो डिस्प्ले कर सकते हो, दैट्स व्हाट मेक्स यू अ गुड फिल्म मेकर.
So coming back to the
Yeah,
start
can I
as
just, Sharif, can I just like add a question over here? Kabir, do you think your, like, when you talk about versatility, and I've like, if you look at the timeline in which you talked about, do you think your external situations were like heavily affecting the versatility that came? or was it that collaborations happened that way, that there was a script available? As in, was it very external? Was it a very internal configuration that happened at that stage? If you
No,
could just talk.
it has always been external. In fact, I don't write scripts for my films. I write the script of my own life. So I try to keep my life as colorful as possible so that it inspires me to make colorful films and to make films of all different kinds. So it's always been external. It's always been certain circumstances which have propelled me and inspired me to make the films I do. Like I said, I always make personal films. If I'm feeling a certain way in a certain moment, those are the films that I end up making, right? So every filmmaker, every storyteller doesn't really write scripts for their films. They write the script of their own life. They try and create situations for themselves that inspire them to make different kinds of stories and to tell different kinds of films, right? So it was always been like that. I always try to, get myself in certain kinds of in a certain kind of trouble, or if I get myself in certain kind of situation intentionally to kind of, get into a certain kind of mood that would kind of tell and channelize my emotion at that moment into a certain kind of script. That has always been my prima facie focus in a way. Yes, it's never been about, of course, it's been about collaboration. No film can be made without collaboration. It
Collaboration.
has always been collaborative, and I am a democratic filmmaker that way. But it has always come from within. I can't say that it's come from, and it come from circumstances external circumstances that I have personally been in. I cannot say that it's come from another person. I wouldn't be true to myself, or I wouldn't be making films with honesty and integrity otherwise. I'd be making, a Karan Johar or a Rohit Shetty, which I don't like. I don't like them. I'm saying this on the record.
Kafi
So
evident.
that I can agree with you. So no harm in that. So now there are many people who over here who want to explore this field. So as I asked you, now in your case, you already have that kind of background. So there are people who don't have this background. So have you met people who have come who do not belong over here? No, belong in the sense that's a very wrong word, but I would say they have started out in a separate fashion, and major challenges that people who are coming into this space, how to interact with people
Maybe
to
I
get
can
to
So
know
like
them.
unfortunately,
Kabir, I'll just like frame
yeah.
that a little better. So the thing is, even in architecture or any artistic field, there's always this somebody who thinks about concepts or creatives first and then adds technicals to it or just goes ahead with the flow. And there's somebody who comes with the space of very good technical knowledge and can direct things that way. I don't know if that is something that has a parallel system that happens same
Yeah,
like
yeah.
similarly in
Well, very
filmography. Yeah. So I
there
think
are there are
the only thing is ki if you come from a background of somebody
yeah.
who's
So
aware of this, like how do you tell somebody who's not coming from there, which is your scope of like work in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There is a parallel to that in every industry, in the film industry also, which is that you have people who are thinkers and then you have people who are technicians, right? The thinkers are the kinds who will be able to write scripts, who come up with great concepts, come up with great themes, write great stories. They're the pada likha kinds. They will come up with something out of the box and they will be able to create that. A technician is someone who's great with the digital aspects of filmmaking, great with technology, great with editing, great with holding a camera and shooting a film. I don't think it's one over the other. I think it has to be always a mix of both. You have to be a great technician and a great thinker or a great visionary, right? You cannot have one over the other. As far as the question of outsiders is concerned, I think that's a separate question, and I would like to treat it as such. I think that the door to art, politics, media, entertainment, etc., always opens from the inside. Unfortunately, this is true. It always opens from the inside, and therefore it becomes a prerogative of people like me and of people who are industry born to open doors to people who are coming in from the outside if they are capable, right? It has always been I've always gone out of my way, taking the initiative to open doors to get people on board onto my projects, then after that help them make their own projects, right? So it has always been collaborative, it has always been democratic, democratic, and it has always been fair to everyone. And as much as this conversation on nepotism is concerned, yes, I don't agree with the idea nepotism. The whole conversation around nepotism, I don't agree with it that much because it exists in the industry. But I do see where the sentiment is coming from, because uh, unfortunately you have Karan Johar out there who is only pandering to a certain kind of star kids, and he's just taking them in, and he's not letting in anybody else, irrespective of how talented they are. So it nepotism does exist in certain pockets in Bollywood, and it needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be addressed through humanist ways of approaching, taking in new people and production experts. Yeah, that is my stand on both these things. I don't know whether it answered your question, but
As you told, like in India, this whole kind of situation is going on. You have been to international film festivals, you have won over there. So how do you feel that the understanding and reception of films outside India differ from what is actually going on in India right now? Apart from Bollywood, I'm not talking about Bollywood. There are independent filmmakers who are making good films over here. So what is different for them? How do they conceive it?
um, well, see, I I always believe that local stories become universal, right? Now, when you tell a local story like a Masan or a Newton or Hotel Salvation, or there are so
Mukti
many,
Bhavan.
Mukti Bhavan. When you make these kinds of films and you tell these kinds of stories, automatically, or Lunchbox for that matter, they
Yeah.
become universal, right? So you have this whole Western gaze, looking at the kinds of cinema that comes out of India, the kinds that are really grounded with a certain kind of texture work and reality of our times, and chronicle the times that we live in, especially in the kind of milieu on the setting of the Indian landscape, right? Then that Western gaze tends to appreciate this kind of cinema more than we as Indians do. Their gaze and their lens through which they see our films is completely different from the lens that we perceive our own films, right? So I cannot compare our taste buds with their taste buds. I think everybody comes from a certain worldview, and based on their worldview they find a certain kind of cinema fascinating. Like, I would find the cinema of Korea fascinating, as opposed to Koreans themselves would diss their own cinema. They would say, what is this, just the way we diss our Bollywood cinema. They would say, what the hell is this? And at the end of the day, we as Indians also are looking for the validation of a certain kind of Western litmus test to kind
Hmm.
of validate our own work, right? We are also looking at we're seeking their validation.
So why is
So
that so according to you?
that is there, it's there in the international, because we consider melodrama as a form of cinema. We consider it inferior to the kind of realism that the West, or not the West, but I think European cinema kind of promotes, especially in the intelligentsia and in the art house circles of parallel cinema in India. They consider melodrama inferior to the realism of European cinema and the slice of life cinema that they make. And the reason being is because the intelligentsia has largely not liked films that have delved into myth making, right? They have not liked films that are fictional. And the reason they've not liked films that are fictional is because films that are fictional tend to pander to certain kinds of negative stereotypes about certain communities or tribes or cultures within the Indian subcontinent. And when you create negative stereotypes, then it leads to the rise of a fascist like a Modi. So it always, sorry, I'm getting political here, but it's important. So that is what the whole it's a whole cycle. So I understand where they're coming from, but I do not believe that melodrama is an inferior form. I think the color and exuberance and the life of a 70s Bollywood film, with all the nach gana and all the navarasas, the emotion of it, I think that has its own kind of beauty and charm which needs to be appreciated, right? And we need to create our own litmus test and not seek the validation of the West for everything that we make.
That means this film critics and all who give out these reviews and all, they are just bogus. They are of no consideration. We should not look at them while we are going to see anything or look at something.
Yeah, why? I mean, you should use your own mind, na? Be your own critic. Why the hell are you listening to anybody else outside? I never understood this. I mean, fine, critics are for people who do not have their own brains to think for themselves as to whether they like the film or not.
Okay,
I
no,
don't think
I would disagree with this on Kabir. But the point is because for me, I had like this is a breaking point for a lot of people who got getting into filmography or filmmaking. For me, the critique was able to help me. I'm not saying I have the same opinion, but there are some taste and textures that they were able to identify. I might like it or I might not
so.
like it. So that I think just having somebody's opinion versus me absorbing it altogether, that
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
seem
no,
like
no,
a
no, no. Of
yeah
course, you have to listen to other perspectives. That's not what I'm saying at all.
yeah yeah.
But to blindly follow somebody's opinion, a lot of people read critical reviews and they think that that review is God's gospel or is God's word. कि उसने एक राजीव मसन ने कुछ लिख लिया फिल्म के ऊपर तो मतलब वो तो इतना बड़ा क्रिटिक है वो तो सही सही बोला तो होगा ना कुछ. That's bullshit. या अनुपमा चोपड़ा ने कुछ बोला है तो वो गॉड्स गॉस्पेल हो गया. That's bullshit. You can use your own mind. You can argue it out with even with anybody, even the biggest critic in the world. You don't have to take their word for what they say. You can argue it out. You can debate with them. You can have your own opinion and stand your own ground. Right? That's what I was trying to say.
Everyone has become content. Everyone is able to create content. Now, as you told, the way we perceive films or anything, or we consume content is far different from what's happening around the world. So if you see in India currently, like majorly, the social media influencers have been a very kind of prime if you look at the base level of the audience. So do you think that these social media influencers like YouTube videos and all, they affect the audience's aptitude in a way that is why they don't consider watching maybe a Mukti Bhavan over a, as you would say, Bollywood film?
Yeah, I mean, they do affect the appetite in a way that I think we have memories of a goldfish and the attention span also of a goldfish. Okay, our memories are short and our attention spans are even shorter. The fact of the matter is that the reason we don't have the patience and the discipline to watch forget to read books. The books to read is gone out of fashion also completely. There are only few people like myself who actually take the time out and do put in effort in a week to read books. But the fact of the matter is that cinema of a certain sort, which is considered parallel cinema, that is also slowly dying a death. And
Yeah.
that's because people don't have the appetite, as you said. They don't have the appetite because we are so used to constantly scrolling those 20-second videos on Instagram, and you keep scrolling. We're becoming brain dead. We're becoming brain dead as human beings. We're losing our sanity in a way.
You feel that this might possess a threat to people who are actually thinking that they want to create meaningful cinema, but they won't be able to make a living out of it in some way because that is what it might hold back for them. There is
See,
not much scope over here.
I don't think. I think meaningful cinema and engaging cinema are mutually exclusive sets. No, are not mutually exclusive sets. Right? You can make engaging cinema and meaningful cinema at the same time. You don't have to make your meaningful cinema doesn't mean it has to be boring, and engaging cinema
No.
doesn't mean it has to be meaningless. Right? That's why they are not mutually exclusive sets. You can have cinema that is meaningful and engaging, and if an audience like today, the evolving audience that we have today is looking for cinema that is fast paced, so be it. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I think the job of a storyteller is to engage an audience also. Only then you can call yourself a true artist or a true craftsperson, being able to craft stories in a way that it touches, moves, inspires, and also engages an audience and keeps the audience at the edge of its seat. So that's fine. But as long as the themes that you choose, the stories that you choose to tell, as long as those are meaningful, you've done your job as a filmmaker.
So you do believe that there is a kind of social responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a responsibility that every filmmaker has towards society, either in showing the mirror to society as it is, or without taking a moral stand necessarily. You show the mirror and you say this is life, you take a stand on what you think is right and wrong, or the filmmaker can push an agenda through his work. But either way, a filmmaker and a film has a responsibility, definitely so.
So if you are saying that there is some kind of social cause which you are wanting to depict, so what important thing about it do you keep in mind that this is something like if you ask what are the important things while you are trying to shoot about a social cause, what all do you keep in the map?
Okay, I'll just maybe make it a little better. Imagine you talked about the society. Maybe as a filmmaker, I need to put a mirror in front of society. There, you have to realize that that mirror also comes from your perspective. This is how you perceive that, how society is. Is there a way for you to, you will have your bias in whatever sense that is there. Is there a way in which you check your bias with neutrality to a certain sense? Like, are there rules to be ensure ki, okay, maybe this is my transparent, this is where transparency is, like this is a little too much, is it being negative or whatever, where is that
Yeah.
balance you find out with your,
Objectivity, right?
yeah,
Objectivity.
to a certain
Objectivity.
extent, yes.
So objectivity is a very, this is a very, very, very deep philosophical conversation, which I will not delve into now. But let me just say that, objectivity can only be maintained if you leave your prejudices aside and you just show facts for what they are, right? If there is a population of a certain number, then that is a number that I am depicting in my films. If there is a person of a certain sort and these are his characteristics, then I will depict that person with that very name and those characteristics in my film. The point is that what is seen as reality, those cannot be clouded by prejudice, because that exists outside the mind, right? What exists in the mind is something that can be biased or prejudiced, but there's a world outside the mind that exists, that you cannot say that there's no moon in the sky. That moon in the sky exists. You cannot call it a sun. If someone calls the moon a sun, that person is an idiot, right? So there's a reality that exists outside the mind, and that is the reality that I am showing, right? So there's no scope for bias or prejudice. I am just showing facts for what they are, and undeniable facts for what they are. And that way, one can even ask the subsequent question that if you read Times of India or Indian Express, how do you know that that's not biased? How do you know that what those are not
Hmm.
fictionalized accounts and those are not truths? So this is a whole conversation
Okay.
on truth, which
Hmm.
I will not get into now. But if you want me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
elaborate on truth, I have spent a lot of time thinking about it. So I spend the whole night
Okay.
thinking about
So I like
truth.
I'll intervene with a like an example. So I remember when Anand Gandhi had, started his website, there was a casting call that he set where he had set up the casting call for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe. And this was a lot of conversation that had happened. Now here's the thing: for somebody who does not come from reservation, it seems like a bias. But look at the society around us. For him, when nepotism was happening, that people were, a certain class of society was getting those opportunities, he, instead of calling them out, he made a different system. He made a system where he would engage with people who are not getting those opportunities. For That's the thing, like, even though it came from a place of unbiased, it came from a place of equality to a certain sense, it now becomes bias for an audience because it is
Hmm.
my perspective of how I perceive your truth. सो आई मीन डिस्पाइट दैट्स द थिंग कि जब आपका ओपिनियन है तो मैं मानती हूँ कि चलो वो आपकी सच्चाई है, बट दैट इज व्हेन दैट थिंग बिकम्स इंटरैक्टिव, व्हेन इट इज यू एंड मी, your truth may not come into the sphere of my truth, and we may clash or whatever. Even the moon thing that you talked about, imagine somebody who's like in a solitary confinement, काफी heavy, but for somebody who's not had that access to see that environment, for him that confinement is his reality.
Yeah, but does
So
that
there
become,
is exclusivity to
yeah,
it.
sure. So
हाँ हाँ
from his
बोलो.
eyes, it's the truth, but does that become the truth? I'm not so sure.
That's the
I'm not
thing.
so sure. But
Yeah, but
what is the
how?
truth is what exists beyond the mind and what is in the mind. So that way, truths are multiple. Everybody has a truth, and everybody's truth is,
Yeah.
different from the other. You're absolutely right. I'm not saying there is an absolute. By no means am I saying there's an
Hmm.
absolute truth, but there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
some absolutes which are undeniable absolutes. Irrespective of what I think, I
Hmm.
may be in a confinement somewhere in a bubble, and I may not have seen the moon, and for you to have told me that there's a moon exists, I may think you're crazy. But the fact of the matter is that that moon does exist, and that is an undeniable truth. There's a sociological paradigm, there's a external universal paradigm which we cannot deny that exists. So this is a very complex debate, Baba.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think let's just shift to filmmaking
filmmaking for
then
now, because
like
we are drifting
philosophy.
away
Yeah,
to
please.
philosophy.
काफी ज़्यादा.
No, but
Okay,
film is
so
philosophy,
okay.
so I'm glad you brought it up because film is philosophy. Like to contemplate about truths. Yeah, I mean, इसमें कितने सारे philosophers ने अलग-अलग बातें बोली है. There are materialists and there are idealists. The materialists believe that there is a truth. Idealists will believe that there is no truth. There is only truth that exists in the mind, which is everything is a perception. There is no absolute truth. So there are different philosophers that have believed different things. So even here, even in the idea of truth, there is no absolute. There is no truth in the conversation of truth itself.
Okay, wait,
That's
breathe.
too much
The three of us need to
complex
breathe.
for it to
Yes.
get back to
अभी
filmmaking.
Okay,
meta हो रहा है,
okay.
but ठीक है.
हाँ, yes, let's come back to earth. काफी
So
reality चाहिए
coming
हमें.
back, like Project Oneness was something that you have spoken about right now. So I'll go back to that field, that is not documentary filmmaking. That was the first thing that you explored. So how did you overcome the awkwardness of going around and asking people for their views and opinions? Because that might be a task.
सच बताओ ना, सच बताओ तो we were too young to be awkward. नहीं, हम लोग क्या 15-16 साल के थे यार, हम लोग किसी से भी बात कर लेते थे. अभी जब बड़े हो जाते हैं ना, थोड़ा सा अभी बहुत सारी चीजें जो है, तो lot of isms have clouded our heads. We've become very complicated human beings as we grow up. There we keep checking ourselves. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? When you're young, you're unbridled. You're unbridled. You're flexible. You're free as a human being. You're not even thinking about what is right and wrong. You're just going and doing what you think is right for yourself. And I think more people were welcoming also because they saw that ये 15-16 साल के बच्चे हैं और ये हमें
Do you
shoot
feel it
करने
will be
आए हैं.
different right now if
हाँ
you would
हाँ,
go with this
definitely.
beard and all?
They will not be as welcoming for sure, and I will also not know how to. There will be a lot of awkwardness now, social awkwardness now. For me to shoot the same film, I do not think that I can make the same film today. I will put a lot more planning into it maybe, and that will destroy it. There's a certain innocence to that film which is definitely of a 16-year-old, and yet there's a certain kind of maturity in it because I have spoken to people who are mature. So it's a balance of both.
So while going all through this, while you're making films and all, according to you, what has been the most like important lesson while it comes to dealing with people? Because this is a collaborative thing. You told you're a democratic filmmaker. So
Yeah.
to reach this kind of conscience that saying I'm a democratic filmmaker, what lesson made you realize that this is the way I should be?
Oh, my earlier philosophy was very simple. Anurag Kashyap once said that democracy is good for the country, but democracy is not good for art. So I was a very hegemonic kind of filmmaker. I would not listen to people's opinions. I would just
Yeah.
do my own thing. Everybody would listen to me, and I used to yell, shout, scream, do whatever the hell to get my stuff done. And I dislike myself, being that way. I'm being totally candid here with you guys, but I hope you guys appreciate it and don't judge me. But this is who I was. This is who I was, and I think as everyone changes along the course of their life, I changed as well, right? Because I went to university and I gained a very certain kind of social and progressive moral compass there, right? I got certain socialist values ingrained in me that made me question establishment myself, right? And I became very anti-establishment, very anti-hierarchy, very anti-hegemony, anti-dominance. And I realized that if I am, I do not like dominance myself, how the hell can I be this way? On my shoots. So I changed my entire process and I made it a very flat hierarchy, right? Which is that there are only departments that are working with me and not under me. So I do it very collaboratively. I do it in a very democratic way. I take everyone's opinions. Of course, final decision is always mine because I am the filmmaker and this is my story. But and it's a story I want to tell, but it is I am more receptive for sure. And I mean, the quest is always as human beings to become better, and only when you become better human beings can you tell better stories.
So
So
even
it's
though
always
there
to
are
become more
clash of
empathetic.
ideas and all, you stick to your own
What
perception
is
at the.
what is clash of ideas, right? There's a dialectical and there's a didactic process. Now for me it was earlier a very didactic process. Now it's a very dialectical process. Now
भाई
you
एक
know,
मिनट आप ना डिफाइन करो डायडैक्टिक और डायलेक्टिक क्या है, बिकॉज काफी भारी वर्ड.
didactic is where one opinion matters over the other, right? Which
ओके.
is what we tend to make as mistakes in our forms of argumentation, where we try and push forth the superiority of our argument over the superiority of the other over the argument of the other person.
अच्छा
Right?
ठीक.
We try and prove that we are more right than the other.
हम्म.
Now that's never the right way of argumentation. It always has to be a dialectical process. A dialectical process is thesis and antithesis creates a synthesis, right?
हम्म.
Which is a thesis, which is your argument and the other person's argument. When you combine
Combined.
and you find a middle ground, or you combine both, you find a synthesis, and it always has to be a synthesis of ideas. So there is never clash of opinions, there's never clash of ideas. It's always a synthesis of ideas, and that synthesis of ideas really helps you create pieces of value and pieces of work.
Hmm. I'd like
But
to add.
sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah,
Sharif, just एक minute. I'd like to add something. So I think the college we were reading a book by Rod Judkins, if I'm not wrong, The Art of Creative Thinking. And there is one of those pieces where he talks about the fact that when you have to be in a collaborative space with so many differing professions and with their set way of thinking, whenever there is a block, a mental block, and you realize, because see, you're at the end of the day, you are also a team leader and you will be giving directions or whatever, but there will be a lot of activity happening between two departments. So what he used to do was he used to, so imagine there's a cinematographer and a scriptwriter, and they are not able to find some sort of a synergy. So he used to flip their professions, make the scriptwriter do the cinematographic shot and make the cinematographer do the script writing shot. Like, write it up and see how they would define the whole thing. So this is like a strategy that he developed.
Yeah,
Is there something that you do similar, different? Do you put yourself in those shoes? Or is there something that you do that is different?
I lost you with the last bit.
अच्छा नहीं नहीं वही था कि is do you have a certain system, or do you put yourself in those shoes and do it, or what is
I
it?
mean, if I'm a filmmaker, if I'm a director, I must know the job of each of the departments, right? I must understand what the role of a cinematographer is. I must understand how a camera works. I must understand the role of an editor. I must understand how she edits. I must understand the role of a costume designer and a production designer and a makeup artist and a spot boy and a production assistant, etc., etc., etc. This is my job, right? And one can only empathize with a certain department when they understand the perspective and the kind of negs that each department has to face during the process of production, right? So I can only understand the neg of a production assistant if I have been a production assistant myself, and I have, right? So it helps me empathize more with their cause. I can't say I empathize without I can't say I empathize every single time, because sometimes you just want your job to get done. But yes, I do try and see what I can do to help them to kind of come out of whatever troubles they're facing, whatever negs they're facing along the production process. And this is a part of leadership. I don't think it's got to do with filmmaking per se. It's got to do with
Mhm.
leadership across the board, in any department, any field, in any department, in any kind of any job that you're doing, in any profession that you're doing, where you are a leader or you have a team under you. It is very important to understand the JD or the job description of each of the people who are working under you, and what that entails, and what are the struggles of all the employees you have under you.
Mm. Sharif, you want to take over?
one thing, as I was asking you earlier about your views on the whole social media wala part. So there is a positive side also to it. Now, what is happening with the OTT wala thing? So, do you feel that this OTT thing might replace like the consumer behavior? Now they might shift to what is so called as the good part of the content viewership rather than just that commercializing thing. that can open up a scope, right? All these web series and everything are coming up online, this thing. So do you see a scope over there for films that are, uh, as you told, properly put out over there? The meaning, the cinema is there, not, it is not merely a film, it is cinema. Do you feel that way it can survive?
So you're saying that Rohit Shetty doesn't make cinema. He makes products. He doesn't make cinema.
No, but I am saying that maybe he'll come at par with the other people, because the platform is kind of same. So it does not matter what budget film he is making or what budget film someone else is making, maybe Anand Gandhi or someone else.
Yeah, I
But
got it.
so do you think
Uh,
that can have an effect on the way audience are seeing things?
well, the OTT wave has brought in a lot of positive things to cinema, to Indian cinema, in the sense that now you have content-driven cinema that is being acknowledged, right? We have really good films that are releasing on OTT platforms, which are being watched, which are being liked, will be admired, which are receiving, apart from critical acclaim, also acclaim, in audiences and general hoi polloi, right? So that is definitely a plus side of the OTT. As far as whether that will replace theatrical releases or big budget cinema, I do not believe so, because entertainers and big entertainers will always be the need of the hour. A lot of people want to escape as opposed to only watching boring, serious, socially relevant cinema on OTT platforms. They do not want to rack their heads or stir their minds when they're watching a film. They want to watch big budget entertainers, and there's an audience for that. So that will never go. But yes, I think it will be a good balance of both. I think there will be an audience for both, and rightly so. You don't have one over the other. I think both you will have at par, where you'll have content-driven cinema now being respected as much as big budget, high entertainers. And both will be at par that way. You'll have producers for this and producers for that.
So one thing, as you were talking about collaboration earlier, one thing that struck my mind was when you say collaboration, now there are two different entities, I guess, on the set while you're working. One is actors, which you have to work separately on, and the rest is technical and creative that are working behind the scenes. So how different is it to, uh, firstly, how do you select who you want? How do you manage them? And how this acting wala thing is different from the rest rules that are in the filmmaking process.
So acting. So you're talking about cast and crew. Yeah, and cast being
Yeah.
separate from the crew. That's what you're saying, right? Correct. So, well, how do I choose my cast? That's the first part of your question. How do I choose my cast? Well, everything is subservient to story, and story, right? Everything is subservient to the script. You have certain faces in your mind's eye that you imagine to be in your film, and those are the kind of faces that you go out seeking, or you hire a casting director to find those faces for you. So you find those faces, you audition them, you audition several of those similar faces, and then you kind of see which one fits best for the role and which one is the best of all of them in terms of performance,
So what
right?
exactly does a casting director do?
The casting director will give me a whole range and a whole platter of options I have. So let's say I'm looking for a girl who's, let's say, 26 years old, and she's someone who is very artsy and who's very cultured and belongs to high society. Maybe lives in horse cars and is a South Delhi kind. Will be going to IIC for the weekend, attending lectures and book launches. Then I have that kind of image of a girl, wearing kurtis and wearing a jhola. I mean, she's wearing a the certain kind of bag that she will have, which will be a very Rajasthani folk flavor. So I have that certain kind of image in my mind's eye of this is the kind of girl I want for my film. She's a reader, and she's an intellectual. So I will then go and tell the casting director कि यार मेरे को ये यही चाहिए और आप मेरे लिए ऑप्शंस निकालो अभी. तो वो ऑप्शन निकाल के मुझे भेजेगा, 10 15 20 ऑप्शन भेजेगा. मैं उसको और पैसे दूंगा, कोई 40 ऑप्शन भेजेगा, और पैसे दूंगा तो 80 ऑप्शन भेजेगा. जितना पैसा खिलाओगे उनको और ऑप्शन मिलेंगे. वैसा है उनका.
So can I interject onto like the casting kind question right now? So we were going through a lot of, I mean, do you remember Bhumi Pednekar was working with a project with, I'm forgetting the girl's name. She worked in Thappad. किसी को actress का नाम याद है? I think yeah. So they did so. Yeah, हाँ. तो उसमें the thing is I remember, and then there was this conversation about Neena Gupta. So they were shown as the aging process was shown, and they could have like taken older senior actors in that position. That's the thing. कितना I know. So हाँ नहीं तो नहीं. तो I actually have like with what he was talking about with casting, even with क्या कहते हैं Scarlett Johansson being a part of this Asian representation वाला thing, it's not a trivia question. It's just a basic choice of an actor or a filmmaker.
No, choice of actor or filmmaker. Let me correct you. There's a choice of the producer always. The fact of the matter is that you need star power for a film to run at the box office. Unfortunately, that's the truth. We live in a very starry-eyed country, where only if you're a star or you're related to a star will you be considered and will you be watched and liked. So people who talk about nepotism are the same ones who will go and watch a film, of Shah Rukh Khan's son, for example, and would be excited to see what Shah Rukh Khan's son has to offer now. So the fact of the matter is that we live in a starry-eyed country, and one cannot take that away. And obviously, for a producer, it's always a business. It's always a business proposition that he or she is looking for, right? Everybody is looking for good business for their film. They're investing crores into a venture, and they would like to recover that money. And to recover that money, they would obviously want to have a bigger name and a name that will do well at the box office, and therefore they select a Bhumi Pednekar and a Taapsee Pannu as opposed to a Neena Gupta, who does not have that big of fan base, right? So it's just a business decision. It's as simple as that. There's nothing to be thinking about it. It's just a business decision that these guys take as producers. And there's nothing right or wrong about it. अभी यार अगर आप किसी चीज में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो तो आप भी चाहोगे कि यार अपने पैसे रिकवर तो हो जाए.
Yeah, for sure, understandable. But I thought, does it never come from from a filmmaker's point of view where they like they can work better with an actor instead of trying to like get the right appropriate casting, age appropriate casting, versus I know I can maneuver this actor in a way where I can push and pull their boundaries, versus with the fact of कि अच्छा agely appropriate देखे तो right है ये democratic sort of a casting हुई है. Does it not come from that space like at all, or like differing view तो हो ही सकता है? But what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on this. This is a debate of ethics and morality over business. Now, I do not have a question. I don't have an answer to this. Sometimes you have to compromise on ethics for your business, for your business. Sometimes you have to compromise on your business for the ethics. So
I am coming to this.
These are mutually exclusive sets, which I cannot, give a black and white answer over here.
Okay. True.
So earlier, as I asked you, like, what is so different in the outside country? So what I'm getting out of this is between this conversation was that in outside India, there is, especially in Hollywood, I would say, there is this studio system. Like studio decides what they want to create, and over here there is star system. So over there, the studio might be in the position to the drive. Now, for example, you're watching a Warner Brothers or a Marvel picture, or maybe some other studio. So people get attracted to this studio. They are making this picture. But in India, it might be that this star is being cast in this picture. So maybe that is the driving force in foreign countries and this.
I don't know. Right? I think there's a star system abroad also. I do not believe that this, maybe it's partly true, but it's not that people aren't starstruck by Scarlett Johansson. And it's not that people are not starstruck by George Clooney. Right? People are starstruck there, people are starstruck here, people are starstruck everywhere in the world. So that's how it is. That's how it is. And everybody, there's a psychology behind. There's a psychology behind the star system, also, right? So it's not just coming out of nowhere.
So coming back to the management of actors.
Okay, so one thing, I think this is the last question, and then I think we'll open it to the audience that is there.
Yeah,
because
let's do that.
Yeah, sure. Chalo, Sharif, last.
Hi.
हाँ हाँ मतलब ठीक है
लास्ट क्वेश्चन है, बताइए।
लास्ट क्वेश्चन है आपका, आप देखिए आप प्रायोरिटाइज करिए कौन सा करना है।
कुत्ती फेंकोगे अभी आप?
As I was talking that maybe there are people who are not related to this field. Maybe, for example, I would say about actors. So the person is not an actor, but you feel that he is fit for the role. For example, you might say he has the characteristics or the mannerism of what my character might be. So how do you manage actors in a very general way, even if he's an actor and non-actor?
I do cast non-actors also sometimes.
Yeah, then
not trained actors, non-trained actors. Sometimes I do cast. I do make exceptions because I feel that this fits the role perfectly. But in that case, we do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of training with them. I get acting coaches to kind of train them for several weeks before the shoot. So we do intense workshops with them. I don't just place them in my film because they have the face. No, not at all.
So workshops mean that acting coaches and all, they try to teach them how to manipulate your emotions and all.
Or not teach. You don't teach. You only help them internalize. You don't teach. You help them internalize. What you help them internalize is you tell them that backstory. You help them work on it. You help them work on that character motivation, their character wants, their intentions, who they're related to, what they're supposed to be, what their characterization is in the film. You help them work on all these facets, and then they themselves accordingly figure out themselves and who they are playing, and they become that character. Before the shoot, you help them become that character, and when they become that character, then it's very natural for them to play the role.
Okay, cool. So, if you can see, Kabir, Sakshi from our college, she
Yes.
kept a question. So, I'll just unmute her and, she can have a conversation with you.
Hi.
Sakshi, yeah, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Kabir. Really
Okay.
nice to hear you out.
Hi, Sakshi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. So it was really nice how you could explain everything so openly and blatantly. So I had this question pointing out from after you and Ashwata had a conversation about how movies differ and how filmmakers should have a social responsibility when they're making movies. However, there was an entire hedonism movement, and if you look at, there are a lot of hedonistic movies altogether which do not cater to any kind of social responsibility or any cause either. So what are your comments on that?
No comments. I do not like those kinds of films, and I don't engage with them, and nor do I promote them. So I have no comments on them. But yes, hedonism, as in, if it's cinema that is rebellious and that is trying to raise a question in a way, which is challenge the boundaries of what is art and what is cinema itself, then that is good hedonistic cinema. Hedonistic cinema that is about love, sex, and rock and roll in a way that it is rebellious and that it is challenging the boundaries of cinema itself. Then yes, that's good hedonistic cinema. So I wouldn't say all hedonistic cinema is bad. I would say there's a certain kind of stylization to hedonistic cinema, a certain kind of treatment given to hedonistic cinema that does make certain forms of hedonistic cinema good. Watch a film by Kaushik Mukherjee. Not all of them have social themes, socially relevant themes, but they're all hedonistic cinema that is meaningful cinema, right? They're all films that are rebellious, that
Right.
are they break free from conventional norms of filmmaking.
Right.
One thing I would like to add is, as you were mentioning, so Quentin Tarantino can be considered as this kind of filmmaker.
Yeah, definitely. Like Memento, and so Memento is a great example like that.
Memento is of Nolan.
But see, those are not social. They're not got social issues that they're tapping on. They're asking larger philosophical questions.
Yeah.
So those are also meaningful cinema only.
Yeah.
Those are not hedonistic in a way. They're not hedonistic at all. In fact, Memento is not at all.
Yeah.
None of these films. They're all grounded in a certain kind of philosophy that they stem from.
Like if you say there is nothing social about it, I say films like Hangover or also could be very hedonistic. And if you look at that, I feel even Bollywood has a lot of only pleasure driven or entertainment based movies. So I mean, is our audience just liking such movies, or like I feel there's a lot of controversy in how Indians watch cinema and how Westerners watch cinema. Like there is less audience towards social cause or social messages.
Yeah, because
Unless recently.
Yeah, the reason why they have the West can be said to have more refined taste buds is because they don't they've reached the top of the pyramid, right? Which is the self-actualization. We are a
Right.
third world country still, right? We cannot afford self-actualization. We cannot afford to watch cinema that is socially relevant or that stirs our minds or our gray cells in a way. We have to. We would rather watch films that help us escape from our worldly troubles, right?
Right.
And which is why we do not like self actualization, and we cannot afford it, and we will not be able to afford it till our economy gets back in shape, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's all linked. Yeah, it's all linked. It's economy and psychology and sociology is all linked. It's just
Okay.
one. Yeah, it's interdisciplinary.
Thank you. Thanks for your views.
Yeah, thanks.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Because मेरे को chat box में तो सिर्फ एक ही दिखा.
I'll just shoot a question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, hey Kabir, Vishesh here.
Hey Vishesh,
My-
what's up, man?
yeah, all good, all good. So really, glad to hear, the great free flowing organic discussion that we were having, and I mean the amount of candor that you bring into the conversation. So really nice to hear that. So my question goes back to a point that you mentioned, Kabir. You said that you always draw into your reservoirs of personal experiences and emotions to tell your stories. But as mortal beings, you can only expose yourself to so many emotions and experiences, right? So, what do you do in situations wherein you're devoid of that experience? And I mean, how do you live that experience so that you are able to emote that in your story?
Well, the simple answer is that you get writers who have been through that lived experience, right? So that is where the collaborative aspect of filmmaking comes in, where you want to tell a film about a gangster from the '60s, but I know nothing about the gangster about a gangster from the '60s. So I will get a writer who's been through that lived experience or who has read up enough and done enough research in that arena to help me out and assist me in making the film I want to make, right? So but whatever it is, the point is that you get engage people who have been through personal experiences, so it's not just your personal story, but through your collaborations you get people who will help you tell your personal stories or your films that stir you and who that interest you, and who can also relate to the subject that you're making on a very personal level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much, Kabir.
Thanks.
Hi Kabir,
Yeah.
Pranav here. I actually had a question.
Yes.
So you said that basically as a filmmaker, if your film conveys some sort of a message, which is I think the kind of filmmaker that you are, you're successful. But that being said, I don't believe that a film should necessarily have a social message. For example,
No,
it
no.
should be a good film. Like for example, a film like A Death in the Gunj,
Yeah.
right? It's a brilliant character study. It doesn't have a social message, but it's a really well made film. But then
Yeah.
you see these films that are not really doing well at all. Especially, I mean, for example, A Death in the Gunj made just about 1.5 crores. Ship of Theseus made just about half a crore. But then a film like Article 15, which is a good film, but has a social message and has a very it's an easy watch. It still has a mainstream appeal.
Commercializing it.
I'm not saying it's commercial film per se, but but it's easy, but it's a far easier watch than say a Ship of Theseus. So, do you think that filmmakers like I'm still very early in this journey, who are inspired by uh, you know difficult cinema, is it just a pipe dream that we have regarding what we're trying to make? Is it something that should be abandoned? I mean, I know it's a challenging profession, but the scope of it in India, and also, do you think that the advent of OTT now is definitely going to shift the audience towards more open, being more open towards such kind of experimental and different kind of cinema?
Yeah, I mean, the difficult cinema is, I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think it's on its way to becoming a reality, where you will have audiences across the board consuming more of so-called difficult and experimental cinema. As far as why Death in the Gunj and why, I think Ship of Theseus, those two films that you mentioned, why they didn't do as well. Well, I think that there are several reasons for this. One is primarily because they were not as well marketed as Article 15. You also don't have a star cast, right? Of course, Death in the Gunj did have. I'm not saying Death in the Gunj didn't have, but it wasn't half as well marketed as an Article 15, right? So there are all, and also Death in the Gunj was an English film. so it's not accessible.
Hmm.
So there are accessibility issues. There are issues that it's not distributed well in enough theaters. There are a lot of things. It's not just as simple as audiences don't have the taste for it. Audiences are evolving and becoming more mature in India, right? People want to watch different and offbeat films, but there are also other things, right, where you have these films are only being unfortunately funded by producers who have little or no money, right? And they usually make the film and then they run out of money and they have no money to market it. So then it again becomes a problem, and then people say, oh no, independent cinema doesn't have a market. It's not true. It's also true that the producers ran out of money, so that also must be taken into account. I don't know
Okay,
whether
Kabir.
this answers
Thanks a
your
lot. Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Any more questions? The chat box.
I think Pranav was the last one. Is there anybody else that has any other questions? Guys, यार पूरे टाइम तो काफी enthusiastic थे, अभी पता नहीं क्या हो गया इन लोगों को.
So one thing I can ask is any 5 films that you feel that everyone on this panel should watch?
5 films. Well, I really like Lady Bird. I really like Marriage Story. I really like Her. I really like this film called The Artist, and I really like A Beautiful Mind. No, Beautiful Mind nikal do. There's a film called 400 Blows by Truffaut.
Sorry, can you come again?
400 Blows by Truffaut.
या जिसने लिखा है ना प्लीज फॉरवर्ड कर देना because I think I lost your audio बीच में.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Guys, does like nobody have any questions? Nishant sir, where are you? I mean, Modi ji, we actually have a Modi amongst us, a likable one. I can assure you of that. Hanji, I think Sakshi has another question.
More than a question, I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's more of a viewpoint. So, Kabir, you mentioned that you don't really believe in the philosophy of film critiques, but I mean, in these times more so, where you are bombarded with so many messages of only one tone, speaking positively about a particular film. There's so much a movie is so heavily promoted, but to have an independent and a honest voice to that film, I mean, isn't that really important in a polarized environment like this?
I mean, absolutely, it is important, which is why you need to use your own mind, no?
Right.
Which is why you don't go with the herd. You just use your own mind and you think for yourself. You read all the opinions, you read everything, you read all perspectives. Maybe you'll get enlightened by a few of them. Maybe you'll change your own perspective reading some of them. But if you still feel that they're wrong, then they're wrong. So you follow your own mind. Yeah, you don't get swayed by what somebody else thinks.
Exactly. I mean, more than just buying into their opinions, it is more about like when you're earlier on in your journey. These are just friends who help you take more informed decisions, maybe with your
Yeah, but behind
knowledge.
every opinion there has to be an argumentation. Where there's otherwise it's just an opinion floating in the air. If that person has a valid argument and has evidence to convince you to their viewpoint, then go ahead and believe them. Otherwise, if you have a counter argument and it's very simple, yeah. It's very simple. Either you convince or you get convinced. It's very simple. So for every argument there is a counter argument, and there's a counter argument, and there's a counter argument. So if this chain can keep going on till somebody reaches the final destination, and which is the truth, the absolute truth, then that is the absolute truth. And that is what the film is. It's a good film or it's a bad film, right? So if you feel that somebody is put forth a point which you don't agree with, you can argue against it with your point of view, and then let them counter argue, and then you counter argue, and at the end of it, either knowledge will be created, which is very valuable knowledge will be created, or either side will get educated as to which is the right side.
Right.
It's too abstract, no? Sorry.
Yeah, but I get the gist of what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It's consolidated pretty well. Yeah, Sakshi has a question, I think. And then I have one. मैं पहली line में लग रही हूँ. So Sakshi, if you could start with yours.
What is the role of an art director?
हाँ जी.
What is the role of the art director? Well, the art director creates the palette for the film. Everything is subservient to story, and story, right? Every story and every scene is other, and every character has a certain kind of emotion, right? And that emotion has to be communicated through the use of colors and through the use of textures and patterns, right? Now, understanding color psychology is the most important thing for any kind of art director or costume designer, period. You must understand colors, you must have sense of colors, you must have a sense of color palettes, you must understand color psychology, and you must understand the story, be able to absorb the story, internalize it, and be able to create a landscape and an entire texture work in the landscape that you're creating through your art. uh, you must be able to do it in a way that it pushes the story forward and propels the journey of the character in the film. Yeah. So that is of primary importance for you as an art director to understand the story. And beyond that, if you really want to get more, if you want to get
Hello.
more meta.
Hi, Kabir. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just joined back again. There was some issue. I couldn't hear. I couldn't have heard you before.
Where did you lose
Did
me?
you like? Sorry.
Where did you lose me?
Right from the beginning, like when Ashwata said Sakshi has a question, and then I could just join back. I'm so
यार,
sorry. I'm troubling you to ask again.
बोला मैंने इतने अच्छे से बोला, अभी आप फिर से बुलवाओगे, ठीक है, फिर से बोलेंगे.
Arey.
No
There
problem.
is a recording, but ठीक है, yeah, you can
It's
consolidate
okay.
it.
Ashwata
No,
has a
no, no,
recording.
I'll say it, I'll say it.
अरे ये
Wouldn't
kidding
trouble.
बाबा,
I
हाँ,
was
Sakshi
talking
chill, we're
about
just
color
kidding.
palette. I was
हाँ
talking
हाँ.
about color palettes and how color
Uh-huh.
palette, understanding color psychology and understanding color palette is the most important thing for an art director. And color palette and color psychology is again subservient to story, and story. Right? So your color palette will be
Right.
decided by the journey of your characters, the emotions in the scene, and by the story that the journey that the story is taking. Right? So that is of primary importance. Beyond that, if you want to get more meta, I personally believe that film film में मजा तब आता है जब फिल्म से बदबू आती है. When your smell when your film smells of the earth is when there is when the fun when the fun begins, and when your film has really life in it, right? And for you to create a life
Right.
in your film, the landscape that you create, which is the art direction, the set design, the production design that you do for the film, that has to be convincing and that has to be real, so that the audience can smell the texture of the film. This is me getting
Right.
abstract.
So could you say that essentially an art director would fill in the vacuum for the narrative or the story?
Yeah,
Because
visually yes,
the elements.
visually yes.
Yeah.
Visually, it's the costume designer, it's the art director and the cinematographer working together to put across and to create a picture postcard in every shot.
Right. That's great. So when you are writing a script, and I mean, no, sorry, you wouldn't essentially write a script. You would envision a story, or you would have
No,
a
I would
script
write a
writer,
script.
and then
I would write.
yeah, like I mean, so what you visualize as a filmmaker about the space goes hand in hand with your art director, or would you just leave it on him and what he comes up with, or like does that go hand in hand?
Every filmmaker has a certain kind of can see the film in their mind's eye. Otherwise, otherwise I don't think that person can call himself a director or herself a director. I think that the importance of a director lies in being able to visualize correctly. Right. So I think for me personally, I am visualizing every digital detail in my shots before the shoot itself and before I even get my team together. So I have a very clear idea of where I want the flower vase in the frame and where I want the cupboard to be, and I also know where I want my drawers to be, and I also know where I want my dining table to be and the television set. So for me, that is quite clear. But yes, I
Where
mean,
do you leave the scope then? As in, if you were very clear about where is the scope of the art director's
of course, there are
creativity?
lots of things I do not know also. There are
Hmm.
lots of things about the technical aspects of art direction which I'm not aware of. There are lots of things
Okay.
where the art director will come in with different kinds of inputs and challenge my understanding and will educate
Okay.
me about what I think is best for what they think is best for the film. And
Okay.
we should think that we as filmmakers therefore should take a more objective stand and look at what's best for the film as opposed to who's really given the input.
Right.
True.
So Ashwata pointed out a very good thing that comes that because of which something comes to my mind is there's always a sense of continuity, like the element of continuity that would go around in the script and also in the art direction or in the sets, like what scene comes
Yeah.
after what and how the element of continuity is maintained throughout the script as well as the physical vacuum which is maintained. So, I mean, do you think there are moments where you think it does not overlap, or you make a deliberate attempt to make it overlap? Like, could you comment on that?
I didn't understand your question very well, but let me just say that if the audience is watching continuity, then they're not watching the film. Then they're not following the story.
Mm.
If the
No,
continuity,
what I was saying was like, see, you have scenes, and then you have a scene cut to scene other, right?
yeah,
So then your scene would have a particular setting, right? And then there is another set that continues it. So there has to be an element of continuity between both.
not really. I mean, not stylistic, which is
I'm
which is
asking, does it or does it not? I mean, I don't know because I'm not a filmmaker, so I'm asking.
no, not necessarily. I mean, in some cases, yes, but not necessarily.
Uh, yeah, I think I can. I'm not gonna elaborate on this, but it's just that That's where it was one of these things I learned in the workshop that was there, script writing ka, where they said ki the charm of the filmmaker and how he really is a magician is when he makes you lose your sense of reality. As in, I remember I watched a movie and then I went and watched that movie again, and then I realized first cut me I didn't realize there were so many things where continuity was missing, but for that one and a
Yeah,
half hour, that filmmaker was able to capture me in such a sense that I went with the flow, the story or whatever. I didn't realize कि oh shit ये continuous नहीं था.
everything is subservient to story, and story.
Yeah,
Everything is
so
subservient. I mean, you can have the most elaborate art direction, the best VFX, the best costumes, the best lighting, etc. But if your story is not right, then I mean, it's a bad film.
and yeah, if you're paying attention to continuity and these little marks that you can see in the script or whatever it is, I think that's then the fault of either you as an audience or as a filmmaker where you are not
Yeah, it's
synergically
the fault of
going.
the filmmaker because the filmmaker hasn't done his job and people are noticing the other
Mm.
riff-raff, which is very
Right.
important.
Hmm.
Right.
Okay.
So that answer pretty much helps me. It's because I'm doing a thesis and it's a part of my research where I wanted to know that filmmakers and directors talk a lot about continuity, but I felt similarly that is it really necessary that it has to be like that, or as you mentioned, it just has to fall according to the story. If it needs it, it needs. Otherwise, doesn't.
I to intentionally jump continuity in my shots.
Okay.
Intentionally
Yeah,
करो जो करना है.
right.
Okay, does anybody else have a question? नहीं तो मैं ना पूछने वाली because मेरे को personal gain भी चाहिए यहाँ से. Guys,
So,
Uh,
you want to go first? I can follow your question, फिर.
okay, नहीं तो बोले. I just have like a very tiny, just to figure out what Kabir's process is or something like that. So Vishesh, you can start, and then I think 10 more minutes and 2 more questions we'll take, and then we'll end the meeting. So yeah, Vishesh, go ahead.
So Kabir, like more of a tactical or a operational question that I had, and I mean, it's okay if we can skip this if it's not in the scope of the discussion. So, if I mean, someone who's just beginning a filmmaking journey or has aspirations to make a film, I mean, could you just walk us through what are the key steps that one has to take? I mean, what are the key steps one has to have in place so as to make a movie?
Well, there's no one way of doing it, but yes, one is absolutely must understand how to tell stories, right? Because film is essentially about storytelling, and so a film aspirant should be able to write scripts, should be able to write treatment notes, concept notes, be able to see and visualize their film in their mind's eye. So that sense of visualization, the understanding of script writing or storytelling or story structure, these are all essentials for any filmmaker. Beyond that, understanding edit patterns, rhythms. Every film has a rhythm and a beat. Understanding film rhythm and film beat is important. Beyond that, understanding the technical aspects of films in order to be able to direct your technicians and your departments. That is also of primary importance. So there are lots of things to this. There's not just one thing. Then to understand color, to understand, have a basic design sense, have a basic visual sense, to understand color, to understand shape, to understand textures, to understand, how to fill a frame up, how to jamao a shot, understanding staging and choreography, how to extract performances from actors, how to help the actors project their voice, how to help them modulate their voice, how to help them express, how to help them internalize their characters. There's so many layers and aspects to making films. And there's so many places where your eyeballs. You must understand leadership also, because a lot of filmmaking is about people management. So your eyes really need to be everywhere.
All right.
Okay. Abhi, I'm gonna take over. Okay, like last 10 minutes left. So first and foremost, I want to know about how you wait. Okay, Aradhika has something to say. The director is the most godlike creature in a kudos to all of you. Oh, yeah, like appreciation hai kabhi. Pad le. उसके बाद I'll ask my question.
Thank you, Radhika.
अच्छा ठीक. So I want to know how personal gain, scriptwriter, obviously, like I said, I want to know how you go. So I was looking at the way other people work and their processes, and they go like cut to cut scenes. So there's like little post-its that they arrange where they talk about, acha ye scene mein ye shot hai, and then they arrange those scenes. How do you work with a scriptwriter on scenes? जो collaborative platform पे finally चीज आती है, and you lose them in translation or whatever, where does the editor come into play? Where does your script writer and you come into play? Where does cinematography come into play? Is there a process or a sequence that you go ahead with, or is it like scene matlab, how you feel the space and you realize, okay, maybe this is a different approach I need to have for a different film?
So there's a philosophical answer to this and there's a technical answer to this. What do you want?
10 मिनट है भाई, दोनों बोल पाएगा तो ठीक, नहीं तो
Philosophical answer is that there are the stories written 3 times. One at the script writing level, one at the filming level, and one at the edit level. So film is not written once, it's written twice, right? And then moving on to the technical answer, it's basically made in this order and this sequence, right? Where you start with the script, you then get your technicians on board, who will help you with your production and help you with the filming, and then you move on to get your editor, your colorist, your sound designer, sound mixer, sound engineer. You get your music composer, you get your arrangers, you get all your music assistants, you get all of that together after you're done with your filming, and you have all your shots scanned in a box, right? So this is the sequence, right? You start with a script, you start with a concept, you start with a seed idea, then you move to a script, then you move to dialogues. After you have dialogues in place, you move to getting your cast. You lock your cast in place. You do rehearsals with them. You do workshops with them. While the workshops and rehearsals are happening, you lock your art, your color palette. You lock your art. You lock your costumes. You lock your costume palette. You lock your makeup artist. You do your look tests with all the actors. Then you proceed on to filming, which is that you start shooting the film. You have your cinematographer. You have light design, you have references for the light design, you give it to the cinematographer, you shoot accordingly. After the shoot is done, you have all your shots in order, you give it to the editor starts lining it up, you get a first cut, no, you get a rough cut, then you get a first cut, then you get a second cut, then you get a third cut, then you get your final cut. After that, after you have your final cut, you start with the sound design, then you have your sound mixing that happens simultaneously. Simultaneously, you're working on the raw footage that you have, which is the log footage that you have. You create that footage, do your packaging, whatever little animation and graphics you need to do, you package it all together, you put your titles and credits, and voila, that's your film.
Okay, I will have to get back to the recording again.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord.
I ramble a lot, that's fine.
नहीं काफी like on point, but just थोड़ा speed high था मेरे brain को process करने के लिए.
रट गया ना, क्या करे, रट
गया. Okay, so one last thing, I think I wanted to know, where do you decide? So because I was not impressed, I was beyond impressed with DALL-E, and I mean, I love the visual effects altogether. I want to know, where do you decide that this is the charm that I will lose with realistic or realism, or maybe doing it without visual effects, or like where is that point where you reach, you're like, ये CGV में अच्छा लगेगा, instead of let's go with, like, because isms, or I think a religion for dummies, if I'm not wrong, there also you could have used CGV to a very high extent, but that looked very not rigid, but there was movement in it altogether, which was not the frame ways in which it was in DALL-E. So there was obviously a difference in approach that you had. Was that with the situation that you were in, or was that a conscious choice?
No, that was
Or
a conscious choice. Like I
okay.
said, I'm genre agnostic and I'm trying to experiment with different styles and techniques in every film I make.
Hmm.
So if I had taken the conventional route and shot Dali in live action, that wouldn't have satisfied my soul. The idea was to do something that I hadn't explored before, and that was obviously to do something which is in the live action animation space. So that is prima facie why I did it, more than anything else. And of course, have you seen Dali's artworks? If you have, you would know why I did it in CG, right?
Hmm.
The fact of the matter is that Dali's artworks are surreal, and it required a surreal kind of treatment to
Hmm.
make a film like that. So yes, that is what motivated me to do it in CG, and why I did Religion for Dummies in pixelation is because I had seen a film called Abid, which is a 1972 film on the painter Abid Sufi, and that really inspired me to do it in that frame by frame animation technique, the straight ahead animation, which it is called pixelation. And that is why I wanted to do something in stop motion and pixelation. It was, again, like I said, because I was genre agnostic, because I was someone who wanted to explore a different technique. That was the route I took for myself. So these were all conscious decisions. It was all planned. It was all conceived that way, and which is why we took it. We took it that way forward.
Okay. I mean, I find it quite satisfactory. Sharif, why did you send a YouTube ka list?
That is actually Kabir's story. So many people might be wondering about his work. So
Okay, okay,
they can directly go up to his YouTube channel and maybe check out his work and derive the
okay.
context of what they are
हाँ,
exactly speaking about. So I was about
okay.
to mention it over there, but then you asked me the question.
अच्छा ठीक है. So I think over time to nahi, but yeah, काफी on schedule, and most of the questions are satisfactorily answered. That is there. We wanted to do another session because me and Sharif are going crazy. We wanted to do a notes on a scene and a frame and a script writing sort of a conversation. So we'll extend that sometime later. And ताकि बाकी लोग भी बोलना चालू करें. It was just the four of us having a conversation. So we'll break the ice somehow, some way. And I think this parting notes, thank you so much. Like,
Thank you. Thank you. Does
bottom of
anybody
our
have any
hearts,
more
do.
questions? Please shoot
हाँ
if
जी.
you have any more questions for me.
Appreciation भी चलेगा. Kabir, like
Yeah,
he will love it. I'm sure. We'll
appreciation.
applaud him right here.
नहीं appreciation नहीं करेंगे. But yes, questions are wholly welcome. Okay, okay, cool. I guess we're done then.
Yep. Wait, I'll switch on my video because काफी हाँ. Yay. So काफी मेहनत डू प्रमोशन में तो हो गया. Thank the Lord, खत्म हो गया. Record भी हो गया ये. We'll get back to you with like a follow up with this. Everybody else who's here probably will get a better crowd, a larger crowd, and a much more responsive crowd than this was. And let us know whenever you're free. And thank you so much again for this, Kabir. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kabir.
Bye guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.
You.